All right, hello everyone, and welcome. My name is Mark Cron with Spirit Plant Medicine, and I am here today with Jason Wernham from the G.A.I.A Co-op, and we're here to discuss the Wixarika Preservation Project, which is an important initiative that Jason is supporting with the G.A.I.A Co-op. I'm going to let him tell you all about it. And we'll just really dive into the program and give you the meat and potatoes. And we'll pass it off to Jason. Jason's great to see you again. It was great having you and the gentleman at the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference in November just last fall. And here we are again sharing the work, the important work that these two gentlemen are doing around the world. So welcome to our program.
Well, thank you, Mark, and good to see you again. It was a wonderful time, Spirit Plant Medicine Conference there. I know we had an amazing time, and for all of you who were there, who got to see, watch and meet both Don Rafael and Miguel Carrillo, they themselves had a wonderful time. They're very touched by their experience at the conference, and both expressed their desire to want to come back and when and if it can happen. So we're also
Well,
looking
we're
into
we're
that.
we're going again. It's official. We're next November 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We're going to be at UBC again this year. We haven't done any big announcements or pre-launches or anything of that nature, but we're always happy to have authentic representation of Indigenous cultures from around the world. So let's definitely talk about that. And I know that we were blessed as well because we had the opportunity to speak with them in a interview while they were somewhere in Europe, and then they came to the conference, and it was so nice to have them there because they just brought this really peaceful, grounded energy.
Absolutely, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's so true. There's a certain caliber of human being with the cultural experience, generations and generations before them poured into who they are, their
Hmm.
knowledge, their wisdom as wisdom keepers. So
Well, and
quite
that's what I
amazing people to
appreciate
work
is
with.
is that authentic, Indigenous voice from other parts of the world. And it's, one of the things that brings us together here as well, is talking about the work that they're doing to preserve their lands. And anytime there's, fundraisers, anything that happens to support, the Indigenous voices, the lands and communities around the world, we're always open to sharing that. And I know you guys are doing some great work as the G.A.I.A Co-op. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about, like, who is the G.A.I.A Co-op? How are you associated? How did you get involved with the Wirikuta and the Wixari gang?
Yeah. So, interesting. So what you have, the G.A.I.A Co-op is a project, and the charitable project. So the charity involved here, our parent charity is actually the Legacy Children's Foundation, Alberta. And I am the projects coordinator, projects director. And this is one of the main projects that I coordinate, direct, and do a lot of work for, the G.A.I.A Co-op. It stands for Global Association of Indigenous Artists. So our whole startup, our whole vision was to um, help Indigenous artists worldwide, from any tribe, from any people, sell their art, especially after what happened after and during the COVID-19 thing, whatever you want to call it. That's up to you.
I think thing is just a good thing. It just calls it
Thing,
just what
it was a
it is, what
thing.
it was,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the very realness of some of what that thing caused, especially, and not only, but especially in third world countries amongst indigenous populations, was it really hindered a lot of their ability for commerce. So, for an example, down in Mexico, where you have a couple of generations now that have been totally dependent on their art sales, traditional art sales towards the tourist sector, like literally, day to day, hand to mouth. Um, all of a sudden, they were cut off from that, and there was articles actually coming out of Mexico from certain sources showing that people were literally starving in the midst of this because they didn't have what they'd been used to. And like I said, like literally some communities for generations of something like art sales. So that prompted us to get what we could together to help these people display, show their art, and be able to continue to sell it on the global market uh, via the internet, online e-commerce platforms, etc., in any way that we could. So, to cut to the chase a little more, in so doing, we ended up meeting the Wirikuta Preservation Project, which itself is a project that is funded and run by For Goodness Sake Foundation. For any of you that were at the conference, you might have seen up on stage and even met Matthew, and he is the CEO of Goodness Sake Foundation and also runs the Wirikuta Preservation Project with many other great volunteers that you also might have met there. So, here we are, we're looking for Indigenous artists to help. I have personal experience 20 years back traveling in Mexico, running into the Wirikuta, more very commonly known as the Huichol. We call them Wirikuta, they call themselves Wirikuta. So of course, looking for them, knowing their art is just something that is a factor of awe, ran into these folks, started talking, started realizing what they were up to. And so now we make this connection, and the G.A.I.A co-op starts putting the art that they have purchased from the Wirikuta on our website to help them sell it, start learning more about them. They're raising money to purchase property for the Wirikuta people. So the reason for this is here you have an indigenous people that live in the mountains of Jalisco, Nayarit, in and around, say, Puerto Vallarta, Tepic area, West Coast, Sierra Madre Occidental. But they have a land that they pilgrimage to that's about 500-600 kilometers into the desert north of Mexico City in the state of San Luis Potosi. Now, of course, things are different in Mexico. I don't even know if it would be that different if it was happening in Canada, but because they don't live on the land, it's their pilgrimage land, but they don't occupy it. In this society we live in, this day and age, it is not their land according to society. So it's being bought up at a rapid rate by commercial agriculture, mining, etc. But for the Wirikuta, it's the most essential part of their culture. It's where the medicine grows, the hikuri, the peyote cactus. So for them, you could bolster their local economies in their towns, their local towns. This would be great. There's a certain level of poverty that you see there. I've been there, but they're happy people. But what matters most to them is they know very well that if they lose their pilgrimage lands where everything starts and ends for them, they lose their culture. So it doesn't matter at that point. So the Wirikuta Preservation Project that we teamed up with raises funds to purchase that desert land within the Wirikuta and then signs it back to the Wirikuta people. And they've just actually completed what they call their phase one. I don't know all the specific details about that, except to say that they've purchased a large portion of that land. They just succeeded in doing that, and were able to sign that over to the Wirikuta people, which is amazing. It's awesome. It's a huge feat, and it's seemingly the only way that they can do this down in Mexico. There's no other way to secure this land. So, when we came to the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference, our organization Well, let me backtrack a little bit. The interesting thing is, before I met the folks from the Wirikuta Preservation Project, I myself, out of my own self-interest, had purchased a ticket to the conference. Well, this is right up my alley. I used to go to the conferences in Palenque in '99 and 2000 with Terrence McKenna, Jonathan Ott, Christian Reich, who just recently passed away, Sasha Shulgun. So to get back into it, bought the ticket. And then when I met the Wirikuta Preservation Project, it clicked. I went, aha, these people need to come to this conference. Reaching out to you and Stephen, and then welcomed with open arms. It was like bread and butter, glove fits, so to say. You know what I mean? If the shoe fits, wear it. Whatever you want to say. It was an amazing thing.
Well, we were grateful to have them there. Again, like I say, it's one of the things over the years since I've been involved, in this psychedelic renaissance and everything that's going on with these plant medicines. There's a historic indigenous history around the world that needs to be recognized and honored. And I think Belinda Araccio said it really well in a conversation we had last fall, as well as, it's cultural appreciation, and we need to really respect that. And I always find it bizarre, because I know we've worked with a couple of other groups as well to, get their lands back from their natural place of being, their whole culture. And it's, kind of ridiculous to think that, they get their lands taken from them and they've got to buy it back, at a time in history when land's the most expensive than it's ever been. And, these are people who, we see it here with First Nations in Canada, and, the travesties that we've seen over the course of history in the past couple hundred years. And, it's to bring a recognition to what's gone on in the world, and to, bring this back in a way that really honors the people, honors the lands, the plants. And, you talk about the medicines. I know it's peyote down there is what these gentlemen work with. And, when we see this growth, this is something that we've seen for years now, and that I hear all the time because I speak with so many people. But it's about sustainability. It's great that these medicines are there, but we can't just go rape and pillage the lands and take it all so there's no more. Right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's one of the your major issues down there in the Wirikuta is, of course, the mining and commercial farming. But then you also have, and a very large problem is things like the peyote tourism. And interestingly enough, if those of you are not aware, there's become a movement of even, I don't know necessarily what to call it, but like almost like like an illicit harvesting for the purpose of resale of peyote, of all things, within Mexico. More gang oriented. So that's an issue for them, and there has to become ways of developing a responsibility, a recognition, like you said. It's a plant medicine. It's a culture that has expressed that it needs to share with the surrounding nations. It realizes its need to interact with the nations around it, but to go in, and I'll say this about the Wirikuta Preservation Project, and the For Goodness Sake Foundation. They've done a wonderful job at doing exactly that. They've gone right into the Wixarika's tribal council, and in everything that they do with them, they have gone through the process of seeking and obtaining approval from the internal tribal government of the Wixarika before enacting on anything that they do, which to me is simply amazing. It's the absolute utmost respect in this realm, in this area. So they don't move, nothing we do that comes apart from being covered, if you want, by this tribal council of the Wirikuta people. So it's amazing. Um, so that in a nutshell is the relationship between G.A.I.A Co-op
Hmm.
and the Wirikuta Preservation Project, and the works that we're doing together collectively to raise funds to primarily be able to buy this land of the Wirikuta and to save it for the Wirikuta. And also, like at the conference, you saw we had tables set up, the art set up, and there was certain portions of that art that specifically belonged to, say, Miguel.
Hmm.
And we made sure that those funds all went back to Miguel's family, and Miguel's family's township of San Andreas Comiata. You know what I mean? So it wasn't just the land, which is absolutely important, but also realize need to continue to support the families of the Wirikuta people. So yeah, one of the things now that we're doing, G.A.I.A Co-op, being supported by the Wirikuta Preservation Project, are, as you can see behind us, art sales. I'm in a gallery right now in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. This is Casa Mexico, and they, on their website, saying is the very best of Mexico. So we thought it's proper to introduce the Wirikuta and their art to Casa Mexico, because we believe it's some of the best of Mexico.
Mm.
So we've had the art set up here. It'll be set up here for the entire, well, for a month's time. People can come in, look at it, learn about the Wirikuta people, and also purchase the art. So things like that, that's what our organization does a lot, is help these artists sell their art.
Well, I got to
And
say their art is incredible. To see that detailed beadwork on some of the their pieces was just incredibly. I was astounded, is what I was, because just the detail and the intricacy, and then like all what I would see is almost tedious of just that, the minutia of the detail that they put into it is incredible. I actually have some
absolutely.
images of their art here too. Let me see if I can share it here.
Mhm.
And these are just like, a panther mask. It's just incredible. Everything that we see there, the detail of the beadwork, the eyes, the nose, incredible. The lion, amazing. I love
It's
the skulls.
amazing.
The skulls are just blow my mind.
Oh yeah, but it's amazing that and it's the same with much traditional indigenous art forms. The Wirikuta in their beadwork and other forms of artwork, they always express things in their visionary realm, in their their story of creation, their belief is that in the things that they see as part of their entire culture, their entire life. So quite commonly you'll see deer represented. You'll see peyote cactus represented. You'll see corn. You'll see coyotes. On and on and on. It actually never really stops. For example, let's take a quick walk over here, and I'm going to switch my camera really quick to this view. Okay, for instance, this is not bead, but this is string art. And in the same kind of way where they lay the beads on a layer of beeswax on sculpture, this is string. And if I get really close, I don't know if you can see, but you can see this is single strand of string that goes on and changes in color, laid on beeswax. So this is one of the pieces that we are in the sweepstakes. It has a value of about $1,800. It's an amazing piece of work. you can see, the deer, the peyote, and I believe this may be representation of corn in the Wirikuta culture. The deer, the peyote, and the corn is all the same spirit, the hikuri. And I can't get much more into it from my limited experience. But so this is the actual piece in the gallery showing right now. Like I said, it's in our sweepstakes, and you can
Well, and
find
let's
that.
talk about the sweepstakes, because that's one of the important reasons why we got together today, was to show people to tell people and show people, of course, what you're doing to help these wonderful people raise some money for their lands.
Yeah. So this sweepstakes. Now, let me see if I can position that properly. There we go. Yeah, it's good enough for now. This sweepstakes, like I said, we have 2 sweepstakes going right now for the Wirikuta people, kind of on behalf of the Wirikuta Preservation Project and the funds that they're earning to buy that land. The specific purpose of our sweepstakes is actually not just to raise money to buy the land, but it's to raise money to bring a delegation of Wirikuta from Mexico back to Canada for the summertime. It'll more likely be Miguel, Don Rafa, whom you met or familiar with.
Yeah.
Amazing people, quite possibly others. We did a conference in October before we came to Vancouver. It was the Indigenous Women's Arts Conference. We brought a wonderful woman from the Wirikuta named Susanna up to that conference. So she might also be able to come on this tour in the summertime. So what we want to do is we want to raise money to afford to bring them back up to Canada, like we did in November, and go to a couple of festivals that have a heavy emphasis on marketing of art and culture, and be able to allow them to do the same thing that they did at the conference and sell their art. So the conferences, both the one in Ottawa, the Indigenous Women's Arts Conference, and the Vancouver, the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference, both of those together collectively, we were able to raise in art sales just over $20,000.
Wow.
For these. Amazing, And the artists themselves, Susanna, Don Rafa, Miguel, were able to go back with a good portion of that. That wasn't just all poured into buying the land,
Yeah.
but it was quite an even split, which was very nice because they could go back and afford the things they need, especially to prepare for their next pilgrimage. So we want to do that again.
Do you find that Canadians are very generous towards the cause then, compared to other areas of the world, or how do you see a comparison? Not that it's a competition or anything, but I'm just curious how Canadians are receiving the gentleman's work and the mission.
This is something I find common all over the place. And what I'll say is in person always beats, say, online, in my experience. So, between the 2 conferences, amazing response from people. They could be there, meet the artists, meet the people. We're just willing to support the cause however possible,
Yeah, and it leads me to thinking that if you're going to be up here again in November, maybe we do something pre or post conference as well for the gentleman, and we're looking at having a few other artists up as well. Maybe we do like a separate art showing and a fundraiser of sorts, so that everybody can get a little closer, a little more intimate and a focused group of people who are interested in the art, because not everybody can make a 3-day conference, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's quick 3-day conference, or in the case of our conference in Ontario, it was just 2 days. It's quick, and you see something you like, for example, behind me, you might see this jaguar head. It's not a very pricey piece of art. You might be someone that has the resources to afford something like this, but you don't necessarily want to make a snap decision to buy it as soon as you see it. Give the person a couple of days to consider what they're supporting, meet the people, fall in love
Yeah.
with the culture, etc. So it's a very good idea, and it's also what we're thinking with bringing them back up for the summer. Is do some of these conferences.
Do something in the summer for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first that's what these sweepstakes are for, raising money to bring them back in the summer. Do some festivals that last, around the duration of 5 days or a week or something. Help them raise those funds again, and then of course, portion of that would be held back in agreements to also bring them back to, say, the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference, or the Indigenous Women's Arts Conference, and maybe even expand it further. We notice every time we do these conferences, that's where the biggest support is, because it's in person. Everybody, it's in person. It's the most personal.
And it was so nice just after a few years of bringing our community back together in person. It was such a big change from 2018 to 2022. It had been going on almost 4 years since the last one in person, and that's a lot of time, and community really feeling the separation of the past few years and what was going on. And so it was so nice to see everybody come back together and support. It's great to hear that it was well received, and it was worth everybody's while of you guys coming up and being part of it, and we're happy to have you there. And again, it's just so important, I think, when we talk about these medicines and this work, that we really look at the history of these cultures from around the world, and the work that these guys are doing to share it. Because if you don't know and you don't see it in the news and in the media, you don't know what's going on in other parts of the world. And I think it's important to be able to support that, right?
Yeah.
What we do.
If we were to lose, you know what I mean? Like, if we were to lose, well, just consider what's lost. If we were to lose the wisdom behind the Wirikuta culture, like I sat in ceremony with Don Rafa and Miguel, and I'm not, they both speak Spanish, and my Spanish it's okay, you know what I mean? But I'll tell you what, I didn't have to understand everything. And most, of course, of what they were saying anyway was in their native tongues. I didn't understand anything. So aside from having to know what they were communicating, I knew what they were communicating. And I felt what they were communicating. And I could sense the wisdom that was pouring forth from the pool that they were drawing from. You know what I mean? And the healing that was done was incredible, and it was amazing. And to lose that, would be just a huge detriment to the pool of wisdom and knowledge that we do have right now to draw upon in the psychedelic realm, and how it can help us, our whatever you want to call it. It's a culture. I'm not even sure if it's a culture or what it is. It's a non-culture, but we need healing. We need what they have to offer, and they're offering it.
Well, and I think there's something to be said for the ceremonial aspect of it. There's a clinical side of things, and we're seeing a lot of that come up in within psilocybin and the clinical therapeutics, right? And I can only speak for myself. That doesn't appeal to me in that sort of sense in terms of a treatment, but ceremony. One of the most profound ceremonies I sat in was with the Native American church in a meeting, and to see the history, to see the culture, to see the ceremony, the way it's all, I don't want, lack of a better word, but say orchestrated, to bring the best of spirit, to put everybody in that place. To me, that was so profound, and to be part of something like that was incredible. And so I think that there's something to be said for doing this work in, its ceremonial context, and the way that it comes up. And I don't know if you saw it, but there's been some news out there that it's an organization making an ayahuasca pill,
I
right?
didn't see that.
It's a
Yes.
pharmaceutical thing, and we're going to talk about that later in the future, when there's more to discuss. But for me, from the healing and accessibility point of view, there's some things that say, oh, hey, that's cool. And then the whole other side of it gets, debunks the cool part, because I can't, how, this is a indigenous ceremonial medicine. How do we bring that to the people in this pharmaceutical way? For me, there's a huge disconnect. And that's why I think it's important that we help support and perpetuate the culture, so that they can continue to teach all of us. All of mankind needs to learn what's going on and have these experiences, so we can have, more awakening, expanded consciousness, connection to spirit, whatever that is for the individual. I think there's more power in that, in my experience anyways, when it comes
Yeah.
down to ceremonial aspect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because we're talking about many, many, many generations of people who have experience in stewarding the earth. We and the places we come from in our ancestry, for the most part, don't have the best track record stewarding.
You got that right.
Actually, one of the worst track records in stewarding the earth and living together with it. But you have these indigenous populations and wisdom keepers, and you see that for an amazing amount of generations, they understood how to properly coexist and steward and take care of the earth and the environment, the animals which surrounded them, etc. Um, you know, one of the reasons even that I chose the acronym of Gaia, Gaia, translation of Gaia being in a nutshell, that's the living and non-living. That's the technical Merriam-Webster dictionary, although it's all living. But if you were to say the living and non-living aspects regulate each other, and it's actually one organism, the entire earth that we live on.
Oh,
And
and
it's
then
so
we're
true.
part of that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that actually, what that definition calls the living aspects regulates the entire ecosystem of the organism. It's our responsibility, as the living aspect, whatever you want to say.
Well, and if we're
So
gonna have any world left, in the next, and it depends who you ever listen to, but there's so many different schools of thought about how much time we have left if we keep doing what we do to the planet. And there is an element of truth to it. Look at what even happened in the 60s, 70s, 50s, all the pollution and, the cleaning up of that, and then where we are even today. And that's why I think it's just so important to get back to some basics. Technology has its place. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater in that sense, but we need
totally
to find a
does.
healthy balance, right?
It totally does.
So
Exactly.
that, because we're so way out of balance right now, and nature, we know, will always take care of itself and protect itself and make sure that it survives. But sometimes us folks aren't that aware of, you know, our long-term survival in that sense.
Really our maybe our purpose within that, you know, nature, yeah, and as we say, um, I imagine would find it extremely disappointing to one day lose one of its greatest partners, one of its greatest caretakers,
Mm.
one of its most amazing perpetuators. So let's link back, relink to the ancient knowledge that still exists in these ceremonies. Um, and figure it out, get involved, get in there and figure it out. And then, so to go back to say, like we're talking about these sweepstakes are helping us figure it out because it's bringing these wonderful people's knowledge and wisdom right to our doorstep, or helping them invite us down into theirs, um, and that they would no longer just be isolated, but that we would approach them with reverence and respect, though, as well, and not create another buzz around.
Absolutely. And I love that, it is brought to our awareness and our attention, and to be able to have the conversations and dialogue, around it. And that's kind of the nature of, just having you and your team and the gentleman up there in November, because it makes everything more real, it's tangible. And I think that's a great part of the work. And the art makes it real too. It's something you can have with you at your time in your home, in your office, wherever you're going to have your art displayed. It's nice to have as a constant reminder to bring us back to what's really most important, and what we need to do as, we're all stewards of this planet, right? And we need to
Exactly.
learn how to do a better job of that, especially as us white folks, I guess. Right.
Well, I've had this exact same sentiment about especially the arts that come out of the indigenous populations and communities. Is maybe most of us, I could say this about, we're not 100% of our waking hours on some kind of trip. Most of us, maybe some of us are, but we can still surround ourselves with the amazing beauty of a culture's, for lack of a better term, trip with their art, because their art expresses what is in that realm for them, and it can become ours. I have wonderful pieces of art displayed around my office that I acquired after doing ceremony with these people, and it's not just art hanging on the wall, but like you said, it's a reminder of something deep. It's a reminder of a spiritual realm where entities really do exist to help relink us to whatever it is that is reality.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, hey, let's get back to the sweepstakes for a bit, because I got to get running in a little bit. I feel like I could talk to you for hours about these sorts of things, and we can go down that rabbit hole of great conversation. Because you've got a couple of great books that you've got involved in this sweepstakes as well, right?
That's right. So just to clarify that, so it's two separate sweepstakes. I didn't want to make it one because they're two
Yeah.
very different kind of topics. One is art. Not everybody who's interested in art would be interested in these books. So one sweepstakes, like the poster that's behind you on the screen there, that's the sweepstakes for the art. You can see that as a QR code, even a number you can text to reach it. Through the same platform, we have a separate sweepstakes for these two books. And these two books very keenly interest the academic society in the realm of entheogens. They're both written by a man that I have met personally and actually stayed at his house for a bit. His name is Jonathan Ott. He's actually someone who's responsible for coining the phrase entheogen.
Okay.
Very studious researcher, natural products chemist, worked with people like Schultes, relationship with Hoffman, written many amazing books. And these specific books that I have in the sweepstakes, very highly valued, rare books. Here's one beautiful leather-bound, hand-stitched, as you can see, shamanic snuffs or entheogenic air themes, Jonathan Otts. It's signed by him. And here's beautiful recycled paper. And
Nice. I got an image to share here too.
yeah, there we go. Yeah, and so that's on our platform for the sweepstakes. And oh yeah, there we go. There's the signature.
Signature autograph. I think, do we have?
And so that is a very valuable cloth, beautiful cloth imprinted. How do we go here? Oh, slip case.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Beautiful,
amazing
beautiful
work,
books.
beautiful book, amazing work of research done by Jonathan here about, like it says, shamanic snuffs, mostly of the Amazon basin, South America, things like Yopo, uh, Anadenantheria, Columbrina, and different admixtures of snuffs inducing shamanic ecstasy. And the study culturally and also chemically behind those things. Very, very hard to find, valuable book. I believe the last I looked into it, valued at about $1,500 Canadian.
Wow.
If I mean, we're talking about in the realm of academics who purchase these things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you're
If
looking
you were to
for
buy
links
it,
towards the sweepstakes, like you say, you've got the QR code here behind me. You've got links down below the description wherever you're watching it. It's here and in the page that might be associated to the video where you're watching it. But there are, easy to find links, and you can also go to GaiaCoop.com as well.
yeah, absolutely. And then this one, the second book, is a second runner-up winner of the sweepstakes. This is Ayahuasca Analogs, Pangaean Entheogens by Jonathan Ott. This is another wonderful, little bit less beefy of a book, of a cloth and imprinted cover. Wonderful work of research, all about, once again, culturally and also chemically about all the different ayahuasca and analogous admixtures found in his research in South America far and wide. And this man, you look him up, Jonathan Ott. If you don't know who he is, figure it out, because he's an amazing man, and the amount of work that he poured into the realm of entheogens and psychedelic research. He is one of the great ones that helped pave the way into what we know now, as far as having the freedom to discuss these things, that it's actually almost becoming an acceptable thing, like in medical research, cultural exploration, et cetera, et cetera. He's good friends with Terence McKenna, and also a mentor of mine that I had done business with, Robert Montgomery, who used to be the director of the Botanical Preservation Corps, or formerly known as Of the Jungle in Sebastopol, California. A wonderful group of men who, in the days 20 years ago or more, was totally devoted to opening up this topic and making it at least slightly palatable to the greater population.
Beautiful.
So these are, like I said, rare and amazing books. If you're a collector of books and you like this knowledge, here they are.
Well, we'll definitely share that with our community. I think I'm just inspired. They're beautiful looking books just from the looks of them. Good quality book from the day is certainly, its own piece of work, right?
It's a piece of art in itself, right?
Yeah, beautiful.
It is an artwork. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Jason, I really thank you for taking the time. And, anytime you've got something you want to share within the realms of the work that you're doing, we're always happy to be a messenger for good, of course. And we encourage everybody to, support preserving the Huichol culture and the Wixarika people. It's certainly worth it. Their art is fantastic. There's some great opportunities. You're always doing good in the world when we're supporting these initiatives. And we encourage you, when they come to town in the summer and hopefully in the fall next year, that you come out and visit them in person there as well. if you visit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you can learn more. Their talk at the conference is available on our Spirit Plant Medicine YouTube channel, as well as there's also an interview there with Stephen Gray and I speaking with the gentleman as well. And you don't have to worry about your Spanish if it's not very good like mine, because we have interpreters for all the conversations so that we can
Yes.
get the message across to us non-Spanish speaking folks.
I would like to mention one more thing. You mentioned
Yeah,
this kind of
absolutely.
at the very beginning. It's a separate project, and it's not related to the charities that I mentioned, but it will be used to donate percentages of the proceeds towards these projects. And what it is I'm actually going down to Mexico in 2 days to help develop a place where we can have the best way to describe it would be a Wirikuta cultural retreat in Tulum, Mexico,
Beautiful.
where we would be able to, various different periodic times of the year, invite Don Rafa, Miguel, Susanna, and other um, spiritual people of the community, different Marakames and different musicians, to a place that we have near Tulum. It's not Tulum, it's in the jungle, where we will be able to offer a kind of a cultural immersion of the Wirikuta to those who are interested in taking, anywhere from 3-5 days to a week out of their days in the hustle and bustle, come into the jungle, meet the Marakames, live the way they live with their culture, learn their stories, learn their songs, engage in their ceremonies. So that is something that's developing, and we're going to be putting out the call, so to say, about that relatively soon. And like I said, then portion of those proceeds that come from that project will also be greatly supporting the projects, both in supporting the families of the men and women that come to grace us with their presence, and also towards the land project.
Beautiful.
So
And
you can
maybe while
look
you're
for that.
there, hey, maybe while you're there, if you got some, connectivity and things, we can do a little, give us a little tour or give us a rundown what you're doing or take some video. We can, circle back about your experience when you go down there as well. Just keep
That
you
would be great.
updated of what's going on.
Yeah, I definitely will have connectivity where we're staying. So that would be I think that sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, it'd be a fun way to do things. I love to, be able to bring in other parts of the world and people can see what's going on and what the efforts are accumulating, right? The fruits of our labor, as they would say,
Yes, very good.
right? So, but that's great. Well, Jason, again, thanks so much. I do got to get going myself. I'm going to play out a little video you provided for us that shows a little bit more of the gentlemen where they're at down in Mexico, some of the people, the kids, the women, and just the areas. So we're going to play that video out, and I encourage everybody to support the G.A.I.A Co-op and their initiatives to help artists around the world with their work, with their culture, with their lands, whatever the initiative is. Please support them. They could always use our help to make the world an even better place. And if you have anything you want to finish off, Jason, go for it. Tell people where they can find you, what they could do to take action, and I'm going to queue up this video.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak once again, and for all of you and any of you that wish to support us through the sweepstakes. The sweepstakes links, I believe, more than likely found on your pages. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. They're all anywhere you're watching this, you'll see the links either down below or to the side or somewhere in that vicinity of the video player.
Okay, great. And then also, if you do go to www.gaiaco/op.com, right away you are presented with a lightning page of the arts sweepstakes. As far as the book sweepstakes, that can be found on our Facebook, which you can find off our webpage, and also linked to, I'm sure, your resources there, Mark. And also the project with the cultural immersion in the jungles near Tulum. The information about that can be found at www.conejoblancotech.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Jason. We're going to play this video you got here that you provided for me. And, well, I think we're going to. Oh, technology. There we go. Here we go. All right. Well, thanks again, Jason. Have yourself a wonderful day and safe travels to Mexico when you go. And here's a beautiful little video of the G.A.I.A Co-op sweepstakes. Here we go.